Now, former high-profile National Senator and New England candidate Barnaby Joyce is campaigning in Brisbane this morning. He's speaking to the media with his retiring colleague Ron Boswell at the exhibition showgrounds. Let's go there now.
Queenslander Matt Canavan is very well trained. I don't know where he got it from.
Well, thank you, Barnaby. You've enunciated everything that we feel. You produce milk. We produce the policies that look after you. Now, last week we had a guy up from the trade practices, a guy called Hank Spears. I introduced him. I brought him up from Canberra, sat him down with Ross Peake and Tessman, and we went through the whole process of what has to be done to the Trade Practices Act. I'm here today to introduce the new Ron Boswell. After 30 years, I'll be handing the baton over to Matt Canavan at the end of my term, and he'll be the go-to man where you need something for primary industry. And it's going to be with a great deal of reluctance that I leave, but I want to leave knowing that you guys have got a future. And as Queensland milk will be going into Queensland, and we don't have to bring milk up from Melbourne or wherever else it comes from. I want to see a thriving dairy industry, and if I can do that, I can retire happy.
Thanks very much, Ron. And it is with a great deal of responsibility that I try and run at this election to step into Ron's shoes. He's been such a great defender of our wealth producing and primary industries in this nation, and I've got a heavy responsibility to take over from him in that regard. It's so good to have Barnaby here too. This is the week where the country comes to the city in Brisbane, but every week in the year the country comes to the city, because the buildings you see out here, the wealth you see in Brisbane is all created from our rural industries and our primary production, which create the wealth in this nation. And we have to stand here as a nation and as the people that represent those industries to protect them and make sure that they continue to get a fair price so that they continue to invest and create the jobs that exist in rural and regional Australia. We are facing a crisis in our industry here in Queensland. We don't produce enough milk at the moment to make sure that everybody can drink Queensland milk in Queensland. We've had 2 major floods in the last 2 years, and after we've had a flood and had a shortage, we've ended up with prices going down, not up. Now, in most markets, you'd have a situation where if there was a shortage, prices would go up to reflect that. But this is a broken market right now. It does need intensive care. I don't want to put it on palliative care. We can have a Queensland dairy industry, but we have to make sure we've got the laws in place to protect farmers so that can happen. It's been a great honour of mine to be able to work with Barnaby Joyce over the last few years. And I really look forward to, and with Bozzy, well, you can bet your bottom dollar every time you get a call, it's probably from Ron Boswell on your phone. So I've had plenty of those as well. But I hope that I can step into Ron's shoes, his huge shoes to fill, and help protect our Queensland industries.
Yeah, okay. Do you want to take any questions, Charles?
Mr. Joyce, what role did the Coalition's deregulation of milk in 2000 have on the current price war?
Could I answer that?
Well, I'll let Boswell.
I was there when it happened. The deregulation of milk was done by the Victorian dairy farmers who voted to deregulate the milk. All we did was stump up with $2 billion to give to the dairy farmers. We didn't deregulate the milk. That was done by Victorian farmers. We may have put it through a state house, but we, federally, what we did was kick in $2 billion.
Can I just add something to that too? Look, this was obviously before I was in politics, but it's also not the solution. The solution is what we do now. The solution is how we act now. We have got to make sure that we go forward and make sure that we bring about the changes, the unfair contract terms, the fact that they're not enforcing predatory pricing laws, the fact that these are the sort of issues that bring about a downward pressure to many instances below cost at the farm gate. Now, I would be happily, can sit up here and we can go through the things that have been right and wrong in the past, but I'll tell you what people are really interested in, how we're going to work in the future, because they're only electing us for what's coming down the track. They're not electing us for what happened 10 years ago.
If you're successful in New England, do you expect a place on Mr Abbott's front bench? As
citizen Joyce, I wouldn't dare pretend what's going to happen to me in the future. At this point in time, I'm going to keep working extremely hard to gain the respect of the people of New England. As you see here today, I'm working very hard for the people of regional Australia. Now, I'm honest to God, I'm at ease with whatever happens, because I know that what I'll continue to do is work as hard as I can for the people of regional Australia, and what the rest is fluff. We'll work that out down the track.
But surely you'll be able to work harder for regional Australia if you've got a place in the cabinet room.
But I reckon I did a fair bit outside the cabinet room as well. I think when we stopped the emission trading scheme, I did that outside the cabinet room. When we took on some of the biggest battles in this nation, I did them from outside the cabinet room. When we're fighting, I'm now Citizen Joyce, and we're making sure that GrainCorp is not taken over by Archer Daniel Midlands, creating a monopoly in the grain market and exploiting grain farmers down the eastern seaboard. And I'm a citizen at the moment, but you fight for what is right, not for your position.
So what is the Coalition's policy on milk?
Well, right now we have a root and branch review of the Competition Consumer Act, and being here today is part of that mechanism of letting the Australian people know where the problems are, making sure the Australian people are also putting pressure so we can get a proper review that brings about real outcomes. And I can tell you right now some of the things that we've already done. The last change we had to what was then known as the Trade Practices Act was section 46(1)AA, otherwise known as the Boswell Amendment. Now, the reason I can say that is not because I want to be a smart aleck, it's because I wrote it. So what we've got to do is make sure that things such as that are enforced. Now, they're not being enforced. We're not getting the enforcement of predatory pricing laws, and we've got to make sure that not only that, but unfair contract terms are dealt with. We've got to deal with the fact that we believe in the rights of the citizen at the farm gate. We believe that the primacy of right is with that individual, and we've got to make sure that our job in politics is to look after our shareholders, which are called the voters.